there were some talks of so-called the debt trap. There was also talk about so-called the green trap. But others suggest these are all rhetorical traps. So tell me more about exactly what you think, what is going on here?
On the one hand, debt is, being concerned about debt is perfectly reasonable, but the term that was used was debt trap diplomacy, right? And so, there are scholars, one in particular that I've read quite a bit of, Deborah Browdicum, she basically looked into the cases in which the case was made, that you see that particular situation, that's debt trap diplomacy, and found that the facts that were used to make the case were just completely wrong. And the point that she made, which is just very important, is that in a time of great tension politically, we can't just make these broad statements saying, the debt is being used as a trap and it's being used to entrap countries, when in fact those examples made no sense. One was the Sri Lankan port in particular. So on the one hand, pay a lot of attention to debt, but if you don't have investment in infrastructure, how are the countries going to grow so that they can pay back the debts that they already have, and then provide a life for their people, lift people out of poverty? So I just think the name calling is too much. And to put a firm point on it, as an Asian American who grew up at a time when there was plenty of racism against Asians living in the United States, I'm really worried about the tone of the dialogue right now that is moving against China. I don't think it's just about trade. I don't think it's just about politics. There's a tinge there that worries me. And the willingness of journalists in the United States to accept this notion of debt trap diplomacy without doing their research, without reading the writings of scholars at Johns Hopkins who said there's nothing there, that's worrisome. And I think that all of us Asian Americans have to stand up and say, look, it's fine to critique, it's fine to have a political position, but you can't let this bleed over into this into what was a very ugly history of anti-Chinese sentiment for a long time.